What is a JSON? JSON is a programming language which is made to communicate with any other programming language over a network. JSON is JavaScript oriented notation. So it can be read and created with any language just after JavaScript. And here we have an example of some data that we like to store, and it's a very simple example. Like we have to store the phone information, and we have a home phone number which is 017783089644, and we also can store a mobile number which is 0150100360. And JSON is basically a key value pair where these both numbers can be matched with another number. And the reason why JSON is very easy to work with, because it only store numbers, string, decimal, booleans, and objects and null. And as I have said before, that everything is a key value pair, and here we're gonna store it in some JSON sort of areas. And here we are declaring inside the curly bracket phone and home, and we are assigning the numbers of the home and as a number of the mobile, and we are ending up with a curly bracket. This is how we model our data inside JSON. And if we want to make it a bit more complicated, we have some data here, like first name, which is assigned by a name, last name, age, enrolled, which is a boolean value, then married, which is a null, and then we had creating object like address, inside which we are going to assign street, states, cities, and end with a curly bracket and comma. Then we are assigning phone on, then we are is array type, that's why we are giving here a second bracket, because type home, numbers, time, numbers, and eventually we end with a third bracket, curly bracket, and a second and bracket. That's how it works in JSON. And obviously we are going to do this with PHP, where the brackets gets automatically done here. Here we wanna create a class studentDB, and starting with the curly bracket, and here we want to model everything with public and then ampersand first name. And we need to pull the data out of a database, and I am here using from a database that public first name, public last name, public email, public street, city, state, jeep, phone, birth dates, x, data, date, lunch cost, student's ID. And I am going to call a function here which is going to build all the objects for me, and inside of like function construct, and inside which I am going to ampersand and different variables by which I am going to create my student objects. And from the first curly brackets, I'm going to initial these things, like I'm going to store these things inside the objects that I have created, and by the like this way, ampersand these is I'm constructing and storing the these things in my object, and I'm going to save it by studentdb.php. If you want to know where your data is gonna store, then you have to write in this way: header content and .php application by JSON, which is very important. And here we have to do and that data is automatically going to know it is a JSON data, and we have to comment it out like this. And we are going to pull that studentDB that we have created by require once studentdb.php, and we are calling that class that we have created there by calling the students objects like JSON data, JSON date, and just first name Mysha, variable name JSON, by which we can just decode the JSON. This doesn't have anything to do with the database. Then I can store it in the browser, then you can see what basically it looks like. it looks like this. Here is the folder I have stored the JSON in, and it's like it is being stored in these objects, and that is the key part. That's it. Similar like this, a bit more complicated way, I have set up here class address. Inside this I have giving puts these datas. Basically I want to create the address and objects, and this is going to be model inside the object and the class, and this is gonna be inside the class students. And here we are going to use this format which we have looked previously, like public first name, last name, age, enroll, marriage, address, phone, and I have given this. And for constructing this I have given function construct first name, last name, age, enrolled, and every identities I want to pass, and I am assigning the value inside each object. And this we can see these are passed to the objects. And here we are going to create an array which contains the whole numbers, and after this we are going to create the students objects, where we give the ampersand Del Coopers and new students and the new class and all the information of a student onwards, and put a semicolon at the end. And we by BR we wanna break statements here by BR on the screen. And object we have created for the students we have encoded in the JSON, and by this line del data JSON encode, and we pass in the object we need to encode in the JSON. And if you want to actually use the real data from the real database, and then we have to go and get our code, and that will be in the database that require once, and that is MySQL underscore connect. And we can check it by giving in the code or MySQL underscore connect error, and if it couldn't connect, it will show a message like couldn't connect to MySQL. And suppose we want to create an query by like that, we can and give them ampersand queries, we are queries and select. Here let's query our database, like we query a database like select, and we want everything from the students, where students ID in either 1 and 2. So we want these two student IDs for first and second students, and then we going to create an array here which will hold the student data that we did. And if is result to database is greater than queries, and from our query while I'll asking for 2 pieces of students from mention, and while we'll until we get results, we'll keep asking for results and fetch that objects fetch that objects, and if we get the results, it will fetch that objects, and then we'll show the printout of the students results by printf. And we need 13 different strings, and from in the database there are 13 pieces of data, that's why we need here the 13 pieces of data. And then we'll put ampersand signs and declare each string as percentage 13 times, and then we'll put each piece of data that we're going to put in these objects, like we'll do the same thing for every single time. And like from the database we'll collect first name, last name, email, And now we'll create a student object and we'll convert it to finally it will convert it to JSON. Then from here we have created a student objects. From we also pass the objects from the database like first name, last name, email, and etc etc. Then lastly we will have to create a student array where we have temporary students, and all these informations came from the database, and we have to end this with curly brackets. Then we have to surround the student data to show that and that the student data is in two different situations, two students in two different situations. Like we have to write echo students, and student is the key, and in the bracket we have to keep the inverted comma and del data, and we have to take the del data that we have created and convert it to JSON. That's we have to write del data and JSON encode student array, which is we have to store the array that we collect from a database, and you can just say echo del data to separate our results. We have to get echo or single quotes or BR, where we will say that we want student course in different lines, and we can also store the del data, which is our second students, about the second students, and same as an percent del data, where the second students will be come in JSON encode data, and the second students will come inside. And here I have demonstrated this very quickly here, and here we have to create the second students array because we have asked for two students here, and this finish this off. We can also write like we have to create a second array, then we can paste it here and also give the same thing echo for to create the data for the second student. And after this we can save it, and we can jump off to the browser.